2 Charlie Victor, just wondering, I've never seen an aircraft type before. Is that a new aircraft or?
Yeah, it's a new personal jet by Cirrus Aircraft. We call it Vision Jet. That single engine.
Yeah, that's what I just saw on there. That was a jet and it's made by Cirrus. I've just never seen one of those before. Is it basically new that just came out for Cirrus, or is it something that's been out for a little bit and we just haven't seen them yet?
You know, we probably had about 10 of them so far that are flying around the country, but that number is going to be growing here and hopefully be seeing a lot more of us.
Hey everyone, it's Paul Bertorelli reporting from the cockpit of the Cirrus SF50 Vision Jet. I'm with Matt Bergwall. In the back is my colleague Larry Anglisano, and you know what, you can call it jet lust or jet envy, but hey, who doesn't like the smell of burnt kerosene in the morning? And we're burning a little bit of it up here, but not that much. Looks like 58 gallons per hour to go 288 knots at 304 knots ground speed. We've just left Duluth. It's in the tailpipe, and we're going to go back there through the magic of nonlinear video editing, talk a little bit about the airplane, flight plan, then we'll come back up to the cockpit.
Here in the middle of August, we're starting to deliver the Vision Jet to our customers at a rate of 1 per week. We're expecting to increase this rate up to 2.5 airplanes per week, you know, in the coming years. Right now, our current order book is over 600 deposit holders, and we can't wait to get the Vision Jet in their hands. The design behind the Vision Jet was really to be that natural step-up aircraft from the SR-22T. So it actually go faster than our current aircraft, that you can carry more people than the current aircraft, and then it can also complete that mission in even more comfort, both on the interior with pressurization, and also you're arriving in style with a jet that looks like it's, you know, straight out of from the future. So right now, most of our order books have people who have either own or have owned a Cirrus aircraft. And we do see that not changing for the many years to come, but we do see that this aircraft will be used quite a bit for even just a regional transportation mission. It is kind of early to really say what the typical mission is, but I mean, we have been seeing, you know, that 300-400 nautical mile mission has been kind of the sweet spot of the airplane, and where what a lot of our customers have been using. We've been looking at as about $600 an hour, seems to be about the typical operating costs of this aircraft. So the Vision Jet comes standard with Perspective Touch avionics, seating for 5 adults, you know, the pressurized comfort, and just kind of everything you kind of expect from a Cirrus. Some of the options we have to offer is things like weather radar, kind of TCAS-1 traffic systems. You can get you know, a 6th and 7th seat for kind of smaller individuals. We call them cross-country seats. You can get cargo extend in the baggage compartment. Also you can start getting into some premium paints and interiors.
And here's a good place to look at some numbers, starting with the Vision Jet price. The base price is $1.96 million, but most buyers get all the options, so figure it's a $2.2 million all-in airplane. So where does that put it against the competition? Well, there really isn't any, because there aren't any single-engine turbojets, which is why Cirrus sees the SF50 as being in a class of its own as a step-up bridge from the SR-22. Speed-wise, the Vision Jet runs with this crowd, or close, and all of these are turboprops. As you can see, Piper's M500 is the closest. It costs about the same, has similar best-case range, but it's slower. The step-up M600 isn't as fast as a Vision Jet either, but as a turboprop, it's a little more fuel efficient. It's also a lot more expensive at $2.8 million. Looking upscale, small jets like the Embraer Phenom 100, the Cessna M2, the Honda Jet, and the Eclipse are all faster than the Vision Jet, and except for the Eclipse, they're larger and heavier. They're also twin-engine designs, meaning higher operating costs, and that's why Cirrus pitches the Vision Jet as a step up from the Piston SR-22 and not a competitive entry-level jet. Here's some more numbers. The Piston SR-22T has a typical useful load of 1,150 to 1,200 pounds. In the low flight levels, it cruises at a little over 200 knots. With full fuel, it can fly about 900 miles in still air with a 45-minute reserve, say Denver to Cincinnati. That'll take about 4 hours and 45 minutes. The Vision Jet has a useful load of about 2,400 pounds, and it carries a ton of fuel, literally. 296 gallons or 2,000 pounds. That leaves 400 pounds for people and stuff. On a standard day, the VisionJet cruises at an honest 300 knots in the mid to high flight levels, but a little less on warmer days. That's good for about 1,100 to 1,200 miles in still air, or Denver to Pittsburgh, with an hour left in the tanks. That will take about 4 hours of cruising. In the SR-22T, allowing for a fuel stop, the same trip would require almost 7 hours. Load the VisionJet with 4 people and luggage, and it's an 800-mile airplane. Your trip from Denver to Pittsburgh will need a fuel stop, but you'll still make it in under 6 hours. Of course, speed in airplanes has never been cheap, and it's not in the VisionJet either. Denver to Pittsburgh will cost you $900 for Jet A in the VisionJet, and about $460 worth of avgas in the SR-22T. Add maintenance and overhaul, and the operating cost delta for the jet is 3 times the cost of the piston. That sounds like a lot, but thanks to this engine, the Williams FJ33-5A, the VisionJet is impressively efficient for a jet. It's got 1,800 pounds of thrust, vectored up to account for the engine's angled mounting. The exhaust goes between the V-tail stabilizers and rudder vaders, so it doesn't turn them black with soot. The engine is FADEC equipped, so starting it is almost unnervingly simple. Just switch a knob to run and push engine start run. It does everything else, including motoring the engine in the event of a hot start. Airport neighbors shouldn't really notice the VisionJet much. On startup, it's quiet except for the initial light off. On takeoff, it's similarly low-key. The center-mounted engine masks the noise signature from below, and the V-tail blocks it from the side. For this shot, the camera is about 200 yards away. Let's back that up for a minute and look at something a little closer here. Compared to other small jets, say the Eclipse 500, the VisionJet isn't exactly what you'd call sleek. It has a bulbous egg-shaped profile. There are reasons for this, and one is that as a single, there's only one place to put the engine without sticking it in the tail as Piper did with the Piper Jet, or ducting it as Diamond did with its D-Jet. But the best reason appears to be cabin access. The VisionJet's cabin is quite large, and access to those middle seats is easy without having to crawl. Similarly, cockpit access is easy because the pilot seat slides all the way to the mid-door line. You can enter this way or from the mid-cabin between the pilot seats. Either way is easy, and so is getting out of it. No problem getting into the rear center seat, but the seats to either side are just a little tight. I wouldn't call them kiddie seats exactly, but there's not a lot of legroom either. Nonetheless, you can still get 5 adults aboard, in which case the VisionJet is a 3-hour airplane with an hour in reserve.
So one of the cool things in this airplane is you immediately notice on getting in it is the visibility, and you really notice it in flight. The A-pillar, it's almost as if there isn't one. It's all the way back past my shoulder, so I've got some 360 footage
Delta
here.
410,
If I spin that around, you can see what I see from the cockpit, which is basically no obstruction other than the center post.
FedEx 3034,
and then I can see all the way back to the wingtip, and good visibility behind that. Really a lot of attention paid to the size of this windshield, and then we'll show you some footage from the rear seats. The visibility back there is just terrific.
One Cirrus design goal for the VisionJet was to make it ergonomically similar to the SR-22. After a fashion, it is that, but I wouldn't say it flies like an SR-22. It has heavier control forces, especially in pitch, and when I knocked it off the autopilot to hand fly it at high altitude, it took concentration to do it accurately. The airplane is clearly designed to be flown by the autopilot, and we engaged it 500 feet after takeoff. Yeah, you fly the VisionJet, but really you operate it through the Garmin G3000 suite and the GFC 700 autopilot that goes with it. Just about everything is input through these touchscreen controllers on the lower panel, and virtually everything on the airplane is automated. The avionics monitor all the systems and warn the pilot of any abnormals that need attention. The Autopilot has envelope protection to protect against overbanking and over and under speeds, and yes, it has a Cirrus trademark ballistic parachute. And I know you're thinking, hey, you can't pull that thing at 300 knots, can you? No, you can't. Pull the handle above the 143 knot deployment envelope and the Autopilot will take over and slow to that speed before the parachute gets loose. To accomplish this, the Autopilot has limited auto throttle authority to idle the engine. The G3000 is arguably easier to use than the G1000 that preceded it, but it also has deeper functions. Because of that and the fact that turbojets require a type rating, Cirrus has invested heavily in a training program for the Vision Jet.
You know, an important part of transitioning to the left seat of the Cirrus Vision Jet is doing the transition training. You need a type rating to fly the airplane. Now, Cirrus is in the process of moving the training from Duluth down to the Vision Center down in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm here with Rob Haig, Chief Pilot at Cirrus. Rob, tell us a little bit about what a customer might expect. Now, the training transition starts long before the owner even takes possession of the airplane.
Absolutely. So first of all, let's set the groundwork here. We designed a training program specifically for owner pilots, meaning that the person who purchased the aircraft would also be the person that's up in the front of the aircraft flying the airplane. And that's not typical for a typical turbojet powered aircraft. Usually those aircraft are piloted by professional pilots or crews. This airplane is designed for a single pilot, but more specifically designed for an owner pilot with that level of experience. So we created the entire training program, or we designed this training program to be appropriate and give the owner pilots all the tools necessary to be successful in this type rating training process. It does start early. We start focusing on instrument competency. That is a core skill, that's a core competency that we need, that sets the platform. And so we want to make sure where all of our customers are at. We want to make sure that they have the confidence necessary, that they're ready to start the type rating training, so we can focus on this great airplane, not necessarily on some of the more basic instrument skills. We spent a lot of effort going through and creating an e-learning suite. This is online courseware. There's roughly 8 to 10 hours focused on all the aircraft systems, but there's also 8 to 10 hours focused on the turbine environment, the high altitude environment, the subjects like hypoxia, high altitude weather, radar. Radar's a new piece of equipment, a new tool for a lot of our customers transitioning into the Vision Jet. So we cover those subjects, and that allows them to start studying on their own.
So tell me about your personal adaptation as the airplane. Was it an easy transition for you?
So I have probably over, the majority of my time has been the SR-22 and SR-22T series aircraft. I actually did not have any turbine experience before kind of entering into this aircraft.
Thanks for the help. Clear
just having the airplane so familiar to with the SR-22 and the SR-22T has really helped me with the transition. Where the type rating course was, it took studying, it took some work, but when it was all said and done, I felt very comfortable and very confident, after I got out of the type rating, that I could fly this aircraft. And then went into the mentorship, got some real world experience, and then I was ready to fly the Vision Jet, and I have almost 300 hours in it now, and it's been an awesome 300 hours.
The Vision Jet is limited to flight level 280, and it spends most of its cruise time at that altitude or at 270 eastbound. That gets it above most of the weather, and since those flight levels are below the heavy jet altitudes, direct routing is common, saving both time and fuel. The Vision Jet has excellent weather avoidance with onboard weather radar and data link weather from Cirrus or via ADS-B. It also has a forward-looking infrared camera. We used all 3 of those on our flight to Michigan. For ice protection, it has boots on the lifting surfaces, a heated engine inlet, and TKS on the nose and windshield. We use those too. Getting to and from cruise altitude is usually done on autopilot, but the airplane is not so fast in this configuration that you'll fall far behind it. In climb, it does about 155 knots indicated, and will get to cruise altitude in 20 minutes. Approaches are flown at 140 knots, but 95 knots closer to the runway.
Kind of slow down to 140 as we get into the final.
Runner 2226, clear direct
down. At about 120.
Direct down.
Okay. And that's going to be about 25% power or so.
Okay.
As soon as we kind of hit
Number 20 Charlie, just advise if you get in harbor in sight, 12 o'clock, 10 miles.
Dot above, we're going to be flaps 100%, or first gear down, and then the flaps 100%.
Okay.
And about 30% power is going to
Roger,
be
just let me know if you get
about 10 knots above the VREF speed.
Okay.
So the VREF speed is going to be indicated by a green donut that's on the airspeed tape. And so you want to be about 10 knots above that.
And it will have calculated VRF, it knows the weight.
Exactly. It knows the weight. It also knows there's an angle of attack indicator that it knows as well, so it uses all this information to calculate it at certain...
And what are
the gear and flap speeds are high enough so you can throw a lot of drag out if you need to slow down in a hurry. Cirrus says the airplane is supposed to land like an SR, and it mostly does, apart from those heavier control forces I mentioned.
Kind of drive it down on the center line there. There you go. All right, you can start bringing that power out a little bit. Keep that nose come down. All right, power should be out.
All the way down?
Yep. Don't. Yeah, let's get that nose down a little bit. There you go. Let's do a little bit of update around. Get that nose down. There you got it. You want to hit.
Very enjoyable trip. So what's our summary here from Duluth to Pontiac? 1 hour and 49 minutes. That was total how many miles?
That was over 500 miles.
500 miles?
500.
Okay, we landed with about 130 gallons.
Correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
So that's what it's like to fly the Vision Jet. My colleague Larry Angelsano will have a full article in the October 2017 issue of Aviation Consumer. Thanks for watching. And thanks for the flight.
You're welcome.